We are looking at the biological succession of plant species at glaciers and as well as volcanoes. And this is basically to see what sort of plant species are most abundant in these barren areas where there isn't a lot of plant and it's mostly just rock. So we're looking at what's going to be there first and also the abundance of species. And we have dates of certain areas so we can sort of create a timeline of what plants are there, which ones come first.
What we're gonna do is at each site, with the known moraines, we're gonna set up different 2x2 meter plots, and we're gonna have our field assistants go around and set up these 2 meter plots. Some are gonna be on the top of the moraines and others are gonna be on the side of the moraines. And we want them to note the abundance of species, so that's like covered of vegetation, as well as the abundance of the specific species.
We hypothesized, we had two different hypotheses. So I thought that it would be mosses that began succession, and then Macy thought it would be lichens. But it turns out it was actually grasses that were the species that we found like closest to the moraines, which means that they are the newest species, the ones that are beginning the process of succession. We were both a little incorrect in our hypotheses, but it's okay because we found some really cool patterns with the grass in that it's the species that starts successions, but then it's also the one that dies back towards the end. So it was really, really abundant in the beginning, and then as time goes on and as other plant species begin to colonize an area, it dies back and is not as popular.
Some challenges that we faced were at the glaciers when looking for moraines. Sometimes we didn't know which moraine was dated or what the date was. Also, just a challenge that I had is I've never seen a moraine in person, so it's a lot different than the aerial view and the model photos that you see on Google.
I also think that like the first time we drove into a glacial moraine, Jeff pointed out that like this right here is the last glacial maximum, and I just remember like looking over at you and being like, this is not what I thought it would look like, because I was expecting like trees and like succession, like what it looks like in Massachusetts, what we're used to looking around, but it was completely barren. It was just rocks, it was just moss. So it was like a shock, and I kind of had to reboot my brain in thinking about like what we were actually working with. We actually found some really cool plants, especially at the Lockie flows, which were from 1783 and were actually the oldest area that we visited. It's a volcano, so we're not quite counting it in our project about glaciers, but we're using it instead as an end baseline of like what succession looks like down the line. And we found Iceland's national plant, which was really cool. It's a little white flower. It kind of looks like an egg, someone said today. We also found a plant. It's like green and spiky, and of course now I forget the name of it, but it's being used to like possibly cure Alzheimer's, which was really cool. So we found some really unexpected things.
I can really say I learned something new every day. Even today at the waterfall, like how much water there was there, how big the waterfall was. I think it's just crazy to know how big everything is. Even though, Iceland seems so small, but like how big the rift is, how much magma is underneath, and how Iceland is all created just from lava. I think that's crazy.
My favorite part of the trip has to be the glacial hike. It was the reason I signed up to go to Iceland, and when it was almost canceled, I was really bummed. I was like, I can't do this, I'm going back to bed. And then Jeff said, no, wake up, well, we're going. And I think it was really cool, and I'm happy that we went to a glacier with such unique features, like the ice fall, and like how we were able to get so close with all like just seeing it, and how we were able to hear part of it falling. They said beforehand that it was something that was really rare, and then we got to hear it, and unfortunately I didn't see it, but I really loved the glacier hike. You can't do that in New England.